The recreation deck of the Orbital Academy was full of sound. Lights shifted across the wide open space, changing colors as different games activated. Children from many species floated, ran, climbed, or hovered, depending on their biology. Laughter echoed against the curved walls, mixing with excited shouts and electronic tones from the game fields. Near the center, several groups competed in fast-moving contests. Some games involved speed, others involved strength, memory, or coordination. The largest crowd gathered around a gravity sphere court, where players leapt and spun in midair, chasing glowing orbs. Cheers erupted every time someone scored, but not everyone played. Near one of the large observation windows, where the stars moved slowly past, a small alien girl sat alone. Her feet did not quite reach the floor of the bench. Her skin was a soft pale blue, smooth and thin, with faint glowing lines that ran along her arms and neck. Her large eyes reflected the lights of the room, but they were fixed on the games, not shining with excitement. They were quiet, waiting. Her species was known for being gentle and sensitive. Their bodies were not strong. Their reaction speed was slow compared to most others. In theory, the Academy welcomed all species equally. In practice, some children were always chosen last. She had tried once, earlier that cycle. She had stood near a group forming a team and asked, very softly, if she could join. One of them had looked at her, then looked away. Another had pretended not to hear. The group had moved on without her. No one had laughed. No one had said anything cruel. That was worse. Now she watched again, hands folded in her lap, pretending she was just resting, pretending she did not mind. Across the deck, near the edge of a climbing structure designed for scaled species, a human boy stood alone as well. Humans were still new to the Academy. They were strange to many of the other students. Not fast enough, not strong enough, too loud sometimes, too emotional at other times. The human boy was not tall compared to others his age. His dark hair was uneven, like it had been cut in a hurry. He wore the standard Academy uniform, slightly wrinkled. He was not part of any group either. At first, he tried to join a game. He stepped onto the edge of a reaction test field, watching the lights flash in patterns. One of the older students glanced at him and shook their head. "Full," they said, even though there was space. The human stepped back. He did not argue. He did not look angry. He just nodded and walked away. That was when he noticed the girl by the window. At first, it was not anything special, just someone sitting. But as he moved closer, something about her posture caught his attention. The way her shoulders curved inward. The way her eyes followed the players, then dropped when they looked back at her. Humans notice things like that, not because they were trained to, because they had been that child before. The boy slowed his steps. He hesitated. Other species rarely approached her, and he wondered if there was a reason. Maybe her people preferred to be alone. Maybe she did not want company. But then she sighed. It was a small sound, barely audible, but humans were good at hearing sadness when it tried to hide. He stopped a short distance away, making sure not to startle her. "Hi," he said. The girl flinched slightly, then looked up. Her eyes widened. Humans rarely spoke to her directly. "Hello," she replied, her voice soft and careful, as if every word might break. The boy smiled, not wide, not forced, just enough to show he meant no harm. "Are you playing anything?" he asked. She looked past him at the games, then back at her hands. "No," she said. There was a pause. In that pause lived many things she did not say. Humans were also good at hearing those. "Oh," the boy said, "me neither." He sat down on the bench, leaving space between them. He did not crowd her. He looked out the window instead at the stars drifting slowly by. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then the boy raised a finger and touched the glass. A thin layer of condensation formed where the temperature difference met his skin. He drew a small shape without thinking. A circle, 2 dots, a crooked line, a face. The girl watched, curious despite herself. "That's interesting," she said. He glanced at her. You can draw too. The glass always fogs up a little. She hesitated. No one had ever invited her to do something like that. Carefully, she reached out and touched the window. Her fingers were cooler than his. The fog formed more slowly, but it did form. She drew a small star, then another. "They look lonely," the boy said gently. She blinked, surprised. "They are waiting," she replied. "For what?" he asked. "For someone to notice them." The boy nodded as if that made perfect sense. They drew together for a while. Simple shapes, stars, faces, little symbols neither of them could fully explain. The noise of the recreation deck faded into the background, not because it stopped but because it no longer mattered. Slowly something changed in the girl's expression. Her shoulders relaxed. Her movements became less careful. When the boy accidentally smudged one of her stars, he apologized quickly. "It's okay," she said. And then, for the first time that cycle, she smiled. It was small. Almost shy, but it was real, the boy noticed. "That's a good smile," he said without thinking. Her eyes widened again. "It is." "Yeah," he said. "It means something good is happening." She considered this. No one had ever explained smiles to her that way before. Around them, some of the other children glanced over. They saw a human and a quiet alien girl sitting together, not competing, not trying to win anything. It did not look important, so most of them looked away again. Time passed. An instructor's voice echoed across the deck, calm and clear. "Attention, students. In 2 cycles, the Academy will hold the interspecies cooperation trial. Participation is mandatory. Partners will be selected voluntarily or assigned if needed." The room reacted instantly. Excitement, worry, confidence, fear. The girl's smile faded. Her hands tightened in her lap. The cooperation trial was not a simple game. It tested problem-solving, endurance, and emotional stability under pressure. Many species dreaded it. Some failed and carried that shame for a long time. The boy noticed her change in posture. "You okay?" he asked. "I am not good at trials," she said quietly. He thought for a moment. "I'm not either." She looked at him. "Humans are brave," she said. "That is what others say." He laughed softly. "They say a lot of things." Another pause. Then she did something unexpected. She turned toward him fully. "Would you," she asked, voice shaking just a little, "be my partner?" The boy did not answer right away, not because he was unsure, because he understood how much courage it took for her to ask. "Yes," he said, "I'd like that." Her eyes filled with something bright, not tears, something warmer. They sat together as the stars moved outside the window, unaware that this small moment, quiet, gentle, easily ignored, was the beginning of something that would make the Academy remember humans differently. And it all began because one human chose to sit down, instead of walking pa the days before the cooperation trial passed more slowly than usual. The Academy corridors stayed busy, but the mood had changed. Conversations often stopped when instructors walked by. Students practiced quietly in small groups. Everyone knew the trial was not about winning. It was about being seen. The alien girl felt that pressure more than most. She sat with the human boy whenever she could. They did not train like others did. They did not practice speed or strength. Instead, they talked. Sometimes they walked the long observation paths. Sometimes they sat near the windows and drew again, leaving small shapes that faded quickly. She learned things about humans that others never mentioned. That humans use stories to understand fear, that they smiled even when nervous, that they often failed first, then tried again anyway. The human learned things too. He learned that her species felt emotions more deeply than most. That loud noise hurt her senses. That being ignored was more painful to her than being told no. On the morning of the trial, the central chamber filled with students and instructors. The space shifted as holographic structures formed. Platforms rose and fell. Pathways appeared and vanished. The air itself seemed to move with purpose. Pairs were called forward one by one. When the human and the alien girl stepped onto the starting platform together, the room grew quieter. Some students whispered. Others looked confused. A few looked almost worried. The girl's hands trembled. Her breathing grew shallow. The human noticed immediately. "It's okay," he said softly. "We'll go slow." The signal sounded. Other teams rushed forward instantly. Some leapt across moving platforms. Others calculated paths at incredible speed. The human and the girl did not move at first. The instructor raised an eyebrow. Then the human took one careful step and offered his hand. She hesitated, then took it. They moved together. The first challenge required balance. The platforms reacted to stress and emotion. Teams that rushed often found the ground shifting under them. Teams that argued triggered sudden drops. The human stayed calm, not because he felt no fear, but because he chose to slow it. When the girl stumbled, he adjusted his pace. When she froze, he waited. They fell behind. Some students laughed quietly. Others stopped paying attention. Then the second challenge activated. A puzzle wall appeared, covered in symbols that changed based on the emotional state of those nearby. Most teams tried to solve it logically. The symbols shifted faster. Confusion spread. The girl stared at the wall, her eyes unfocused. "It's responding to fear," she whispered. The human nodded. "Then let's not scare it." He sat down. Everyone stared. He closed his eyes and breathed slowly. He spoke calmly, not to the wall, but to her. "Tell me about your stars." Her breathing slowed as she answered. She spoke about waiting, about quiet places, about being noticed. The symbols on the wall slowed. She reached out and touched one. The wall opened. Instructors leaned forward. The final challenge came without warning. A narrow path formed over a shifting void. The light dimmed. Alarms sounded softly, meant to increase stress. Teams began to panic. The girl froze completely. Her species reacted badly to sudden pressure. Her vision blurred. Her thoughts scattered. Other teams ran past them. The human stepped in front of her, blocking the view. "Hey," he said gently, "look at me." She struggled to focus. "I'm here," he said. "I'm not going anywhere." The system registered delay. A warning tone sounded. The human ignored it. He waited. Slowly, the girl's breathing matched his. Her eyes cleared. They walked the path together. They did not finish first. They did not finish last. When they reached the end, the chamber was silent. Then the instructor spoke. "Trial complete." The room erupted in sound. Not cheers, something quieter, thoughtful. Later, students approached the girl, not all at once. Not loudly, but sincerely. They asked her name. They asked her about the wall. They asked how humans stayed calm. She smiled again. And this time it stayed. The human sat beside her, watching the stars, knowing that humanity had not won a trial. They had done something far more dangerous. They had reminded the galaxy that no one should be left alone.